5 hidden creatine side effects nobody warns you about. Creatine is one of the most researched supplements on the planet. Fitness experts recommend it, athletes swear by it, and millions of people use it every single day without giving it a second thought. But here's the question most people never stop to ask. What about the side effects nobody really talks about? Not the exaggerated horror stories floating around online, but the small, real-world effects that can genuinely surprise people when they start taking it. Because while creatine is considered safe for most healthy individuals, that doesn't mean every experience is exactly the same. Some effects are harmless but unexpected. Others can make people think something is wrong when it's actually a normal response, and a few of them are subtle enough that most people don't even connect them to creatine at first. Today, we're breaking down 5 hidden creatine side effects nobody warns you about, the ones that tend to catch people completely off guard. And trust me, number 4 surprises almost everyone. But before we begin, drop your name and the city you're watching from in the comments below. Alright, let's get started. Number 1. Sudden weight gain that isn't actually fat. Ever stepped on the scale a week or two after starting creatine and suddenly thought, wait, why did my weight just go up? If that's happened to you, don't worry, you're definitely not alone. In fact, this is one of the most common hidden side effects that catches people off guard, especially in the beginning. The important thing to understand is this. In most cases, it's not fat gain. What's usually happening is that creatine pulls extra water into your muscle cells. And believe it or not, that's actually part of how it helps improve muscle performance, recovery, and strength. Your muscles become more hydrated internally, which can support better workouts and that fuller, more pumped look many people notice early on. The problem is, most people aren't expecting the scale to move so quickly. For some, it might only be a couple of pounds. For others, it can be more noticeable depending on their body size, hydration levels, or how much creatine they're taking. And if you don't know what's going on, it can feel frustrating really fast, especially if your goal is to lose weight or lean out. What makes this even trickier is the mental side of it. A lot of us are conditioned to think that any increase on the scale automatically means something bad, so even when your body composition is actually improving. More muscle hydration, better recovery, and potentially more lean muscle over time, the number alone can mess with your mindset. The ironic part, that same water weight is often why muscles start looking fuller, firmer, and stronger on creatine. So, while the scale may temporarily rise, your body may actually be moving in a healthier direction overall. That's why it's important not to judge your progress based on one number alone. Pay attention to how you feel, how your clothes fit, how your workouts are improving, and how your body looks over time. Because sometimes the scale tells only a tiny part of the story and not always the most important part. Number 2. Digestive issues from taking too much. Have you ever heard someone say they took a massive loading dose of creatine because they wanted faster results? It sounds tempting. More creatine, faster gains, right? But honestly, that's where a lot of people start running into problems. One of the lesser-known side effects of creatine is stomach discomfort, especially when people take more than their body can comfortably handle. Things like bloating, stomach cramps, nausea, or even loose stools can show up pretty quickly, particularly when someone suddenly jumps into very high doses without drinking enough water. And here's the interesting part. Creatine itself usually isn't the real problem. Most of the time, the issue is how people take it. A lot of people do perfectly fine with smaller, steady daily amounts, like 3 to 5 grams. That's enough for most people to gradually saturate their muscles and get the benefits without overwhelming their digestive system. The trouble usually starts when people get impatient. They want quicker muscle growth, faster strength gains, or immediate results, so they overload their system thinking it'll speed everything up. But the body doesn't always respond well to that approach. Instead of feeling stronger, people often end up feeling uncomfortable, and their stomach lets them know pretty fast. It's a good reminder that with creatine, more isn't automatically better. In fact, a simple and consistent routine tends to work much better than trying to force rapid results. The funny thing is, many people who say creatine upset my stomach might actually do just fine if they lowered the dose, stayed hydrated, and gave their body time to adjust. Sometimes it's not the supplement causing the issue, it's the extreme approach people take with it. So if you're thinking about using creatine, remember this. Steady and consistent usually beats aggressive and uncomfortable every single time. Number 3. Feeling puffy or bloated. Here's a side effect people don't talk about very often, but a surprising number of users notice it. Some people say they feel a little soft, puffy, or slightly bloated after starting creatine, especially during the first couple of weeks. And honestly, if you're not expecting it, it can feel pretty confusing. Once again, this mostly comes back to water retention. Creatine pulls extra water into your muscle cells, which is actually part of how it supports strength, recovery, and that fuller muscle look. But while most of that water stays inside the muscles, some people still experience a temporary holding water sensation overall. Now, this doesn't happen to everyone. In fact, a lot of people actually like the effect because their muscles appear fuller, rounder, and more noticeable. They feel stronger, more pumped, and more solid physically. But for others, especially people who are focused on staying very lean or seeing more definition in the mirror, that extra water can feel uncomfortable mentally, even if it's harmless physically. And that's the tricky part. Sometimes your body composition may actually be improving, but because you feel slightly puffier or the scale moves up a little, it can seem like something is going wrong. The good news is that for many people, this effect is temporary. As the body adjusts to creatine and hydration levels become more balanced, that soft feeling often settles down. Staying properly hydrated can also help your body regulate fluids more effectively, which makes a noticeable difference for some users. So if this happens, it doesn't automatically mean creatine is bad for you or that you're gaining fat. In many cases, it's simply your body adapting to the way creatine changes muscle hydration, and once you understand what's actually happening, it tends to feel a lot less alarming. Number 4. Needing more water than you realize. This is one of those side effects that catches people completely off guard. A lot of people start taking creatine without realizing that hydration suddenly becomes much more important. Why? Because creatine increases your muscle's demand for water by pulling more fluid into the muscle cells. That's part of what helps support strength, performance, and recovery. But it also means your body may need more water than usual to keep everything balanced. And if you're not drinking enough, that's when things can start feeling off. Some people notice headaches, dry mouth, fatigue, muscle tightness, or even a general rundown feeling. The surprising part is that many of them assume creatine itself is the problem, when in reality, the issue is often dehydration. Honestly, this happens more than people realize, because a lot of adults already walk around slightly dehydrated without even knowing it. Busy schedules, too much coffee, not enough water during the day, it adds up quickly. Then creatine enters the picture, your muscles start pulling in more water, and suddenly those hydration issues become a lot more noticeable. The good news is that this is one of the easiest side effects to avoid. Simply staying more consistent with your water intake can make a huge difference in how you feel. In fact, many people find that once they improve hydration, the headaches, fatigue, or tightness disappear almost completely. What makes this tricky is how easy the mistake is to make. People focus heavily on the creatine dosage, timing, or brand, but forget the simplest piece of the puzzle, giving their body enough fluids to actually support the process. So if you're using creatine or planning to start, don't underestimate hydration. Sometimes the difference between feeling amazing and feeling awful comes down to something as basic as drinking enough water throughout the day. Number 5. Unrealistic expectations can mess with motivation. This might actually be the most overlooked side effect of creatine, and surprisingly, it has nothing to do with the body. It's psychological. A lot of people start taking creatine expecting some kind of dramatic overnight transformation. They imagine suddenly building huge muscles, feeling unlimited energy, or instantly performing like an athlete after just a few days. And honestly, it's easy to see why. Social media is filled with extreme before and after photos, exaggerated claims, and highlight reels that make progress look fast and effortless. But when real life doesn't match those expectations immediately, disappointment kicks in. People start thinking, maybe creatine doesn't work for me, when in reality, the supplement hasn't even had enough time to fully do its job yet. The truth is, creatine works much more gradually than most people expect. It supports muscle performance, strength recovery, and energy production over time, not overnight. The improvements are often subtle at first. Maybe you recover a little faster. Maybe your workouts feel slightly stronger. And maybe your endurance improves bit by bit. Small changes. But those small improvements stack up when you stay consistent. The problem is that unrealistic expectations can completely distort how people experience the process. Instead of noticing the steady progress happening in the background, they focus only on whether they've achieved some massive transformation immediately. And here's the ironic part. Creatine often works best when people stop obsessing over quick results altogether. The people who tend to get the most out of it are usually the ones who focus on the basics. Training consistently, eating well, sleeping properly, staying hydrated, and giving the process time to work. Because at the end of the day, creatine isn't magic, it's support. And when that support is combined with patience and consistency, the long-term results can actually be pretty impressive. Before we wrap this up, we need to talk about the biggest fear people still have about creatine: kidney damage. You've probably heard the warnings online, and for a lot of people, that concern alone is enough to make them avoid the supplement completely. But here's what's important to understand. Current research suggests that standard creatine use is generally safe for healthy individuals. That said, context matters. If someone already has a pre-existing kidney condition or concerns about kidney health, it's absolutely smart to talk with a healthcare professional before using creatine or any supplement. That's just being responsible with your health. The key thing is learning to separate myths from actual side effects. A lot of the scary claims online are exaggerated or missing important context. In reality, most healthy users tolerate creatine very well when they stick to reasonable daily doses, stay hydrated, and use it consistently instead of excessively. So, are these side effects dangerous? For most healthy people, not really. But they are real enough that people should know about them before jumping into creatine blindly. The truth is, creatine can be incredibly helpful, but understanding how your body responds makes the experience much smoother. What about you? Have you ever experienced any unexpected side effects from creatine? Or are you thinking about trying it for the first time? Let me know in the comments below. And if you want more honest, easy-to-understand health videos without the hype, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss the next video.